I would like to tell you about the comprehensive flood control project that is underway in the Neyagawa Basin in Osaka Prefecture. As for the flow of the story, first I will briefly explain the characteristics of Japan and disasters. Next, we will discuss the topography and social characteristics of the Neyagawa Basin, flood control plans, and methods of flood control measures. I would like to explain this using photos and drawings. This is a comparison of precipitation in Japan and the world. Japan is located at the eastern edge of monsoon Asia, which is one of the rainiest regions in the world. There is an average annual rainfall of 1,718 millimeters. This is approximately twice the world average, 880 millimeters. Precipitation in Japan varies greatly from season to season, and is concentrated during the rainy season and typhoon season. If you compare the month with the most rainfall and the month with the least rainfall in a year, there is generally a difference of about 5 times. Japanese rivers are short and have very steep slopes from upstream to downstream. Therefore, once it rains, the water rises rapidly and reaches its peak in a short period of time. If you compare it with major rivers around the world, you can see how steep Japan's rivers are. Next, we will introduce an example of heavy rain. 2018, record heavy rains occurred mainly in western Japan. The average annual rainfall in Japan fell in just 4 days. A series of river flooding and landslides caused extensive damage. In addition to this, heavy rains caused a lot of damage in Japan, which forced a fundamental review of flood control measures. The screen is an image of conventional flood control measures. We have implemented flood control measures through dams, embankments, and river improvements. However, there were limits to the implementation of countermeasures in urban areas where there were many land constraints. Therefore, currently in Japan, we are actively working on comprehensive flood control measures that add basin measures to conventional flood control measures. Watershed measures include enclosing a ring levee, which surrounds a village on the inside of an levee with another levee, and raising the height of residential areas. Rivers and sewers work together to carry out projects. Create and publish hazard maps as non-structural countermeasures. We are implementing comprehensive efforts to reduce flood damage throughout the basin. Next, I would like to explain about the Neyagawa Basin. The Neyagawa Basin is located in the eastern part of Osaka Prefecture, and is an area of about 270 square kilometers. Surrounded by the Yodo River to the north, the Yamato River to the south, the Ikoma Mountains to the east, and the Wumachi Plateau to the west. A feature of this Neyagawa Basin is that 3/4 of the area shown in pink is an area where rain cannot naturally flow into the river, and rainwater is drained into the river using pumps through sewage system. This area is called inland waters. The remaining 1/4 is the area where rain naturally flows into the river, and is called open water. Next, the Neyagawa Basin is located in the middle of the Osaka Plain. This shows a cross-section of the Neyagawa Basin cut in the north-south direction and east-west direction. First, here is a cross-section cut in the north-south direction. It is surrounded by the Yodo River to the north and the Yamato River to the south. And you can see that the ground level in the Neyagawa Basin is lower than the water surface height of the two rivers. Next, here is a cross-section cut in the east-west direction. It is surrounded by the Ikoma Mountains to the east and the Wumachi Plateau, where Osaka Castle is located, to the west, and the Neyagawa Basin is located at the bottom of the basin between them. Next, I will explain the historical changes in the Osaka Plain. Approximately 6,000 to 7,000 years ago, most of today's land area, called Kawachi Bay, was under the sea. About 1,600 to 1,800 years ago, Kawachi Bay was reclaimed due to the accumulation of sediment flowing from the Yodo and Yamato rivers, and the area of the ocean became considerably smaller. From around the 5th to 6th centuries, land reclamation progressed even further, until a lake called Lake Kawachi remained. After that, it took a long time to form the land that it is today. Next, the Neyagawa Basin experienced rapid urbanization during the period of high economic growth following World War II. The photo is an aerial photograph of the Konoike area in Higashi Osaka City, which is located almost in the middle of the Neyagawa Basin. Approximately 60 years ago, there were still many rice fields left, but now, as shown in the photo on the right, there are no more rice fields, and most of the land has been turned into houses and factories, and has become urbanized. As urbanization progresses, the ground surface becomes covered with concrete and asphalt, and rain that falls does not soak into the ground, instead flowing through the ground and flowing into rivers through sewers, causing river water levels to rise rapidly. Next, during the period of high economic growth, much groundwater was pumped up in urban areas for use in factories and water supplies. The excessive pumping caused land subsidence. In some areas, cumulative subsidence of up to 120 centimeters occurred. Next, land subsidence has reduced the slope of the riverbed, reducing the river's flow capacity and increasing inland water drainage problems. In 1950, Typhoon Jane brought a violent storm surge to Osaka, where the land was already undergoing subsidence, causing the most serious damage ever, with 21,465 people killed and injured and 80,464 homes flooded in West Osaka. After this typhoon, significant progress was made in countermeasures such as laws prohibiting the pumping of groundwater, which caused land subsidence, and the construction of strong seawalls. And the land subsidence has gradually subsided and is now almost stable. Next, 6 major rivers flow in the Neyagawa Basin, but the point where they reach is the only exit, the Kayabashiguchi shown on the screen. Next, this is an aerial photo of the area around Kiyobashiguchi. You can clearly see how urbanized the area is right next to the river. As I explained earlier, the Neyagawa Basin is low-lying, has poor drainage due to urbanization, and has only one outlet, so although flood control measures are being taken, it is still vulnerable to heavy rain. Next, for example, in 1999, heavy rain fell in many parts of the basin, causing flooding each time. Next, we will explain the mechanism by which flood damage occurs in the Neyagawa Basin. First, on days when the weather is nice, wastewater from each household goes through the sewer system to a pumping station. From there it is transported to a treatment plant, where it is treated and then discharged into the river. When it rains, just a little rain is the same as when the weather is nice, and the rainwater is drained from the sewer system, through the pumping station, through the treatment plant, and into the river. However, if heavy rain falls that exceeds the processing capacity of the treatment plant, the rainwater that cannot be treated at the treatment plant will be discharged directly into the river via the pump station. If the rain continues, sewage water will back up from manholes on roads, causing flooding. Next, here are 3 photos of the damage. Next, from here, I will explain the plan for flood control measures in the Neyagawa Basin. Full-scale flood control projects in the Neyagawa Basin began after World War II. Reconstruction from war damage and the rapid social and economic growth that followed led directly to changes in land use, and flood control plans also changed in response. The first plan focused on excavating new rivers called the second Neyagawa and Hirano River diversion channels, and was designed to accommodate a basic high water flow rate of 536 cubic meters per second at the outlet of the basin. Then, in 1972, a major flood occurred in Dato City, which is in the basin city. And this was an opportunity for us to review our plans. This was the second stage of the plan, which included the installation of a retarding basin to temporarily store river water during heavy rains, and was designed to accommodate a basic high water flow rate of 1,650 cubic meters. Furthermore, with the progress of urbanization in the Neyagawa Basin, the third stage of the plan included the construction of new underground facilities to accommodate the basin's basic high water flow rate of 2,700 cubic meters per second. This plan is the current plan and is called Comprehensive Flood Control Measures. Next, I will explain the basic high water flow sharing plan that will be addressed in this third plan. Of the basin's basic high water flow rate of 2,700 cubic meters per second, 300 will be handled by basin residents and the government as watershed measures, and the remaining 2,400 will be handled by flood control facilities built by the government. The 2,400 cubic meters will be divided between a drainage facility and a storage facility. As shown on the screen, the river, diversion channel, and underground river will share 850, 390, and 500 cubic meters, respectively, as drainage facilities. As for storage facilities, the retarding basin and basin regulation pond share 410 and 250 cubic meters per second, respectively. I will explain these 5 countermeasure facilities in order. Next, the first measure is river improvement. The photo is an aerial photograph of the area near the confluence of the Neyagawa and Onshi rivers. This is the situation before the renovation about 30 years ago. The river was narrow, and a sandbar remained between the two rivers. This situation has been improved as shown on the right. The width of the river was widened and the height of the embankment was raised. Next. Second, let's talk about diversion channels. The Shirokita River is a newly created river that diverts the Neyagawa water during floods and drains it into a larger river outside the basin. Next, third, I would like to explain about the retarding basin. A retarding basin is a facility that controls floods in downstream rivers by temporarily storing floodwaters in a planned manner. During normal times, as shown in the photo, it is a valuable open space in the city and is used as a park or an evacuation site during disasters. The structure of the retarding basin is that water that overflows from the river is stored in Zone A, Zone B, and Zone C in order, and after the peak of the flood has passed, it is drained naturally through the drainage gate after confirming safety. In the Neyagawa Basin, 3 retarding basins have been completed: Uchiage River Flood Control Green Area, Neyagawa Flood Control Green Area, and Onshi River, Hanazono, Multi-Purpose Reservoir, and projects are underway at 2 locations: Onshi River Flood Control Green Area and Huzenji Multi-Purpose Reservoir. Next. Fourth, let's talk about underground rivers. In densely populated urban areas, it is difficult to widen rivers or create new rivers. Therefore, underground rivers are being constructed as facilities to channel floodwaters by using the underground spaces of public facilities such as roads. Underground rivers reduce the burden of floods by letting floodwaters flow in from rivers and sewers and draining them out of the Neyagawa basin. The photo shows the inside of the Furukawa Regulatory Reservoir, which is the completed section of the northern underground river. Next. Since it will take a considerable amount of time to complete the entire underground river, the completed sections will be used as temporary storage facilities during heavy rains. The photo shows the temporary storage of floodwaters in the southern underground river. Next. In the Neyagawa Basin, we are currently working on two projects, the Northern Underground River and the Southern Underground River. Next. The Northern Underground River is a shield tunnel with a total length of 14.3 kilometers and an inner diameter of 5.4 to 11.5 meters, and can flow up to 250 cubic meters per second during floods. Currently, the areas in blue have been completed and the areas in red are undergoing construction. The green areas are areas where construction is planned for the future. Next. The Southern Underground River is a shield tunnel with a total length of 13.4 kilometers and an inner diameter of 6.9 to 9.8 meters, and can flow up to 180 cubic meters per second during floods. Currently, the upstream section has been completed, and all that remains is the green area, approximately 2 kilometers, and construction work on the pumping station. Next. The photo shows the shield machine used for the construction and its status of the shield construction. Fifth, I would like to explain about watershed regulation ponds. It is a facility constructed using underground spaces such as parks and parking lots. And when waterways and sewers are full of rainwater, it draws in and temporarily stores it. By doing so, we will reduce the burden on rivers and sewage systems and prevent flood damage in surrounding areas. The screen shows the Mitsushima Reservoir built in Kadoma City. The Mitsushima Reservoir is a storage facility with a capacity of 24,000 cubic meters built under the tennis court, and the inside looks like the photo. Next. This is the inflow situation to the Kori-Nishi Reservoir, which is the first reservoir built in the Neyagawa Basin in 1990, and it is built underground in the park. Next. Currently, 24 such regulating ponds are in use in the Neyagawa Basin. Next. Finally, I would like to explain our efforts in watershed measures. They are measures implemented by residents and governments. The purpose of this project is to restore the water retaining function that fields used to have by constructing facilities to suppress rainwater runoff when public facilities such as parks, schools, and housing complexes are developed, as well as during private development. Next. In the Neyagawa Basin during the large-scale heavy rains that occurred last year, which I explained at the beginning, the amount of rainfall observed in the Neyagawa Basin was comparable to the heavy rains that caused many floods in 1995, but due to the development of rivers and sewerage systems, the amount of rainfall was approximately 208.9%. It was possible to store 10,000 cubic meters of water and reduce flood damage. Next. Due to the difficult financial situation, it is expected that it will take many years to achieve all of the plans. Therefore, as a non-trivial measure, we are widely disseminating disaster prevention information to encourage residents to evacuate on their own to save their lives. You can obtain information such as rainfall amounts and river water levels in real time, as well as information on areas that are at risk in the event of a disaster, via our website or email. Next. As a resident-led initiative, we are creating evacuation systems on a district-by-district basis. As the government, we would like to support this initiative, as it will lead to improved disaster prevention awareness through the creation of disaster prevention maps and confirmation of evacuation destinations. There are measures that we can take as individuals without relying on flood control facilities. For this reason, we are actively conducting PR activities regarding comprehensive flood control of the Neyagawa River. In particular, the following 4 ideas are easy to act. Even if climate change causes unprecedented rainfall, it's effective and anyone can do it, so I hope everyone will find it useful. Constantly think of ways to prevent flood damage. Keep electronics and valuables in high places. Don't drain the bathtub during a heavy rainfall. Remove trash from drainage ditches and gutters. That's all for now. We mainly explained the characteristics of the Neyagawa Basin and flood control measures. After this, we will ask you to see the site and get a feel for it. Thank you for your attention.